We will begin the meeting with an invocation from Chad Haferkamp of Calvary Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead. Please stand.
Thank you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we begin this meeting, we come to you with our praises as our Almighty God and ask for your blessings of strength, discernment, and grace during this meeting and throughout our daily lives. May we lead with wisdom and generous spirit as you would want us to, Lord God. Let us act responsibly and respectfully while we work to nurture our community through word, deed, and our thoughts. Please help us engage one another in thoughtful, meaningful discussion while allowing us to selflessly serve in such a way that it glorifies you always. We pray all these things in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Claire, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Matt Swanson. Councilman Joe Brazel. Councilman Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilman Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilman Dave Hammond. Councilwoman Nancy Schneider.
Here.
Councilman Tim Baker.
Here.
Okay. I will assume that the conditional use permit that is tabled will not be brought off the table. And that means that we will begin with public comments. Just a reminder to the folks, number one, make sure that you have a card filled out. Number two, you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak each person. And on the topics, we usually allow 3 for, 3 against on each topic. We will extend that tonight since there are, a number of people here that are, maybe, a little bit more concerned, so that we'll stretch that to possibly 5 for, 5 against, if that's correct. Okay, start off.
Bill number 5255, Julie Weilbaum.
Oh, you don't need to be sworn in, no.
No, just start talking?
You can go.
Okay, because our representative, Joe Brazel, isn't here, and we think it's important that he hears the concerns of his constituents, and because of some of the fact-finding information that's needed that I've discussed with Councilman Matt Swanson, we are asking that this particular bill be tabled for right now, and to show the support of the Dove Meadows community. Can I please get a raise of hand from Dove Meadows to table?
Whoa.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bill 5255, Mike Faulkner.
Mr. Chair, members of the County Council, for the record, my name is Mike Faulkner. I'm Vice President of Sterling Engineering Company with offices at 5055 New Baumgartner, St. Louis 63129. I'm just here to answer any questions that may arise during the discussion of this bill. I might point out that the only thing that we're asking for is a variance to the subdivision code, which requires that you have to build a county-maintained street for any properties that are being divided to enter onto. That's really all we're asking for, our approval for our preliminary for the division, which is entitled to the property. We're not asking for a rezoning. We're just asking for the approval of the variance for not being able to put a subdivision street in that the county would maintain in lieu of what we'll be doing is doing cross-access easements, and that was also recommended by the staff. So I'm here to answer any questions when that bill comes up.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bill 5255, Martin Maxey.
Hello. I live at Brookfield Crossing, and I'd like to show you some pictures. First of all, I want to tell you that I understand that it's zoned commercial, and I have concerns about the ongoing traffic issue at Duello and Inn. And I'd like to show you guys some pictures here. There are more pictures of this, but with 3 minutes, I only want to show you a few. Here's one where a car is turned over. Here's another one with traffic jam here. So we're going to add a gas station, something with people coming in and out of it all the time, to add to this situation. Additionally, I'd like to ask, why is a gas station not compelled to have an on-site detention pond, considering the potential hazard of gas station? In my experience, I work at an electric company. We have to have on-site measures for capturing any type of chemical that flows down. So that's a question of mine. Regarding commercial zoning, while I acknowledge that the removal of the trees that are happening today on Duello are part of a different subject, I would like to say that here's my house in pink right here. And this blue line right here, there's a bunch of trees bordering it. Now, I know that this is commercial over here, but when I bought it, there's a bunch of trees over here making a big barrier that they're removing today. Now, if you're going to buy this house with property values, or any of these around here, and you have this over here, and there's no border, they're sitting 25 feet higher, so you need 20-foot trees even start to border that. That is another part of this situation. I get that that was zone C2, but with the ongoing thing of making this road bigger, it's really hurting. My deck is sitting right here, right at the back, and I'm gonna be looking straight at a gas station. Here's some pictures of the trees to show you how big of a barrier it was of when we bought our houses, what we were seeing. And this is the value of the houses. So the big hit, so what I'll actually maybe construction, I'm trying to propose, if anything, could there be a 6-foot white vinyl fence going from all the way down the east side of Duello, now that we're removing all of these trees? Oh.
Thank you, sir. Lord?
Bill number 5255, J.C. Kane.
Good evening, everyone. My name's J.C. Kane. I live at 48 Wisdom Way, also referred to as Lot 37 in Dove Meadows. I live there with my wife and 3.5-year-old son. Like the Sterlings, who I believe live on Lot 40, who are probably going to speak here again tonight, our property contains a storage drain the developer wishes to tie into. For the past 9.5 years, my family has lived in this home, and we have dealt with major flooding issues in our backyard every time the area experiences heavy rainfall. Oftentimes, that water is so high you can't even see the storage drain itself. The water rushes through our yard like a river, over the storm drain, and into the property to the west of us. We've invested large amounts of time, energy, and money to address this issue to the best of our ability. We now have a dry creek bed running through the back of our yard, the entire length of it. It does not stop the flooding from occurring, but at least we no longer have to deal with the giant mud pit filling the ditch in our backyard for weeks after a heavy rain. That said, over the years, we have come to understand that we're probably going to have to live with this flooding. That we'll be unable to get a swing set for our son to play in because our yard is so saturated, and that there'll be times we cannot let our child and pets out to run for days because the yard is such a soggy, saturated mess. However, as I stand here today, all of my anxiety the family once had experienced and somewhat come to terms with is now rushing back, as we now have a number of new concerns surrounding the storage drain and the flooding in our backyard as a result of the proposed development. We all know soil absorbs water better than concrete. The proposed development will result in all of the land on the hill behind us to be covered in concrete. Will that amount of water that floods our yards increase? Will an increase in water cause the flooding to move closer to our homes? And will that affect, or what will affect, will have this on our homes' foundations? It's also well known that gas stations produce a number of harmful chemicals. What types of harmful chemicals will introduce into our backyard as a runoff from the proposed property on the hill above us? Gasoline, oil, antifreeze. These are just a few to name the obvious ones. If this proposed development is allowed to move forward, wet clothes and muddy shoes will be the last of our concerns. We would then have to be concerned with the health and welfare of our child and pets when they are just playing in our backyard. Think about this, just playing in our backyard. No parent should ever be put in that position. I conclude by saying this. Over the past few weeks and months, the City Council or County Council has listened to many concerns posed by individuals and families that would be directly impacted if this proposed development moves forward. I've attended every single one of these meetings, in person and online, and to my knowledge, besides the builder, I have not heard a single individual stand here and express to the council that we need this development in our community and how much value it would add to our lives. Nobody said that. You guys have sat here, nobody said a single word. I'm missing half my speech here, but I'm just gonna skip it to the end and just say, this isn't gonna enrich our lives. It's only gonna enrich his bank account. Just because the law says someone has the right to do something does not mean it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill number 5255, Justin and Amy Sterling.
No relation to the developer.
Want that up there? Turn that, there you go.
I just did something else for the insurance stuff too. Just same pictures you're gonna see on there, but then that way they're in order of how the person goes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you've seen those. Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Justin Sterling. This is my wife, Amy Sterling. We live at 42 Wisdom Way. Just want to say that we oppose the lot split, making way for the gas station retail plaza on this land right up the hill, right in our backyard. We ask that, first and foremost, that you just table this discussion so that we can do more research on this. But as we all know, this property site sits on an elevation plot, and it doesn't show on pictures, but way above our property line. And the water that runoff that comes down, you can see the pictures. I mean, that's a 2.5-inch rainfall on March 27, 2021. And, I mean, it flooded our backyard. And it was very close, and it doesn't show in the pictures, but it shows it's very close to our egress window, almost coming in our egress window in the backyard. So, the Dove Meadows stormwater system was designed and built with the property was still zoned residential, so it never planned to accept that runoff from a commercial property. The paved surface on top of the soil that has a rating grade of a D underneath. Councilman Baker, you're a civil engineer. You understand that paved surface the runoff's going to be way worse with a paved surface than it is with the dirt that's there existing. So it's going to be way worse. Please look at my backyard. I mean, please understand this and the elevation level.
And everybody else that's on this side of the street
Yeah.
as well. Everyone
Yes.
deals with this.
That's,
Pretty much it.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
These are also
I mean,
flooded
that's all I
capacity
have.
from the same rainfall. Yeah, almost to the homes there.
Yeah.
And against here. And these are the
these
areas where
retention
kids flood in
ponds, yeah,
and play in.
kids play in these retention
So
ponds.
it's not just the water overflow, it's the contamination of what's
Yeah.
going in that water that,
Gas
that we
station being
enjoy.
built there, I mean, everybody understands, when it rains, all the fuel and everything, where's that going? That's going into the sewer system, which eventually goes into Lake St. Louis.
and other creeks around us.
All the creeks around us flow into Lake St. Louis. So,
Please consider tabling this.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
the subject of smart cities, Mary Ann Boatwright.
Thanks. I'm Mary Ann Boatwright, and I'm talking about St. Charles as a smart city. And thanks for tabling the fiber optic cable issue. Councilman Elam, being an I3 broadband vice president, acknowledged appearance of conflict of interest, so thanks for recusing yourself. It looks improper to enter into this contract with no other bids, especially since they did not meet the requirements for the proposal specifications. There's confusion on whether we would lease or own. Do we really think our IT staff is best suited to prevent disruption or hacking? Why are we doing this? Is it for unfettered access, data collection, and monitoring of citizens? I see this as part of a smart city matrix globalists will use to enslave us down the road. Most of the damage being inflicted is at the local level using federal money. We need to use discernment when taking federal money, since strings are always attached and outcome is rarely what we envision. Having traffic lights synchronized for better traffic flow is convenient. Having cameras catch criminals seems like an asset. However, residents made it clear we're not okay with more cameras, but again, we're addicted to federal money. We're always encouraged to relinquish privacy and freedom in exchange for safety, security, and convenience. This happens inch by inch until we're no longer free. We're being spied on by our phones, laptops, cars, insurance companies, appliances, thermostats, TVs, smart meters, banks, credit cards, traffic lights, drones, and self-checkout kiosks. Our data equates to money and power. We don't have to wonder if we'll be hacked, but when we'll be hacked. I have suspicions that some of these hacks may be cover for selling our data. Note all the class action lawsuits. If you want to know our future, look no further than China. Chinese people know they're being watched 24/7. They know they are slaves. If their social credit score falls, they will be punished by having their digital bank account locked. If they come home past curfew, their apartments are locked and you will see them sleeping outside on the street. In Oxford, England, citizens are limited to the number of times they can travel by car outside their 15-minute city. If their license is captured on camera, they are fined. We won't be able to vote our way out of this mess, since the same globalists pushing smart cities control our elections. We were told machines were not connected to the internet until AT&T FirstNet admitted they were, and that they could do it to talk to one another. Why? Was it used to flip votes from a central location? We should not approve Henry Adkins and Sons sole bid, who is also a partner of Unison Voting Solutions, until all requested FOIAs on election machine costs are provided to Councilman Brazel. I hand-counted an election, and the process was efficient and transparent. This council needs to pause election authority funding until there can be a cost-benefit analysis compared to hand-counting paper ballots. This council has a fiduciary and moral obligation to do the right thing for the people who are clamoring for transparency and justice. This is not a time to be foolish and naive. The truth will come out, and you'll want to be on the right side of history when it does. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
On the subject of smart cities, Judith Moorfield.
Good evening. The only interest we have in smart cities is to ban them. Why in the world would we be interested in more technology that increases the monitoring, tracking, storing, and accessing of personal movements and transactions? This type of system can easily and does easily usher in a police state in which people will seek to escape to reclaim their freedom and privacy. Smart cities are favored by tyrannical governments, so they should be rejected by freedom-loving countries like ours, which was founded by wise and courageous people who fought to remove the shackles that a government gone greedy and power-crazed had forced on them. There are many today who, like the Founding Fathers, are willing to fight against this kind of control. We believe the citizens who support these smart cities are ones who don't do research for themselves and instead take someone else's word for it. Because if they did look into it, they'd discover the far-reaching implications of these cities, just like Marianne said, what's happening in China, and then would reject them unless they like the government controlling everything, or they benefit financially from it somehow at the people's expense. The shininess of new concepts like smart cities is very attractive to the naive, who want the latest technology to do the simplest of things for them, rather than exerting themselves mentally or physically. Please vote no on the idea of any smart city in St. Charles. We are not duped by this utopian-sounding system which delivers more government control right to our front doors. The conflict of interest with council members standing to profit in any way, shape, or form from this proposal needs to be addressed and rectified if it hasn't already. But even without it, in case it's not clear yet, we do not want a smart city, more accurately described as a slave city. Final note, get rid of the voting machines. We do not want them, so do not authorize more funds for them. Kurt Barr needs to turn over the receipts. He has violated the sunshine request, and we are not going to ignore it. Stop using our money against us. We will fight all tyrants and usurpers to get the local government back into the hands of the people. And any citizen who is disloyal enough to this republic to support the election machines and giving more money to Kurt Barr, we invite you to sit down with us so that we can enlighten you. Council members and everyone must choose their side wisely. And remember, never discount the importance of whose side God is on.
Thank you, ma'am.
On the subject of electronic voting machines, Jim Greismer.
Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I understand that there's a question about voting machines versus paper ballots. And when I think of electronic voting machines, I must ask why. How is this better and safer than paper ballots? Has paper become too expensive? Does it threaten the environment? Is it faster? When I think of elections, my first thought and consideration is safety, accuracy, and accountability. Up until a few years ago, I, like many others, trusted the system, which was relatively straightforward, having election officials from both parties present to keep things straight seemed to work pretty well, and the results were produced within a few hours. Not bad, all in all. But in the most recent elections, it seems like many liberties have been taken, which produces some skepticism among many, myself included. I realize that elections have been won and lost in the past due to improprieties, and I guess that will always be the case. However, my experience with present-day technologies causes me to wonder about the efficacy and reliability of technology in general. And now that I think about it, smart cities comes to mind too. I realize that elections have been, For instance, how many of us here tonight have received statements regarding the protection of their privacy from companies they do business with regarding or reassuring them of the elaborate precautions and encryptions they have in place to protect our private information, only to receive a notice that their security was breached and our information is now in the hands of others? Makes you wonder just how much good their assurances were, doesn't it? And their so-called security. I think I would prefer the old way that we could somewhat trust than the high-tech way. But maybe there would be a better way than either of the above. Maybe we could just rely on artificial intelligence to perform the task and completely relieve us of the responsibility of registering and voting altogether. Researching all the candidates and the issues just makes my head hurt. I've been told, or at least it's been suggested, that if AI could do a better job of calling an election and eliminating uneducated and ill-informed voters.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
On the subject, electronic voting machines, Ally Graff.
Allie Grafe. I'm sure y'all are familiar with me. I am I'm here to tell you a little bit about Henry Adkins and Sons. That on Kurt Barr's bill here, he says that the Unison voting systems machines that this county purchased are both federally and state certified, which they are not. The lab that is testing our Unison systems is not accredited federally, so they can't be certified federally because they're not compliant with the law. So and he says in here, he further says that Henry Adkins and Sons are the exclusive authorized representative certified by Unison. So they work for Unison. So you've got the equivalent of the fox watching the hen house there, right? So we're supposed to rely on Henry Adkins and Sons to keep Unison in place, right, with their testing and certification, which is ridiculous, which is why the HAVA Act requires an NVLAP and NIST certification on any laboratory, anybody that's doing testing and certification, and I've sent all of this to Mr. Swanson. In any of the details, any of the laws, the NVLAP, the NIST, they must be, here, actually, I'll read it to you, since I got some time. It says here that, so according to the NVLAP handbook, and I sent a link to him, any voting system testing laboratory, which is what Kurt Barr is saying that Henry Adkins is, must fulfill the said requirements by issuance of a certificate of accreditation and a scope of accreditation. In the VSTL manual, 2.4 is testing and subcontracting. So you don't have the fox watching the hen house, right? You can't rely on somebody that's getting paid. I mean, they're a vendor of Unison. So you have to have an unbiased party. That's why the HAVA Act, that's why we codified into law HB 511. So Henry Adkins and Sons must have a certification. In fact, if Henry Adkins and Sons are performing testing, where is their NVLAP scope of accreditation that authorizes them to have the legal capacity to do so? So that scope of accreditation explains what they're qualified to test for. Unison can't provide that. They're a machine manufacturer. It has to be the NVLAP or the NIST. It has to be certified. He knows this. So this stuff in here is ridiculous. Like, we have to know the law before we start passing and funding them, okay? So the NVLAP, the EAC, the VSTL manual, the NIST manual all state that any laboratory or subcontracting laboratory doing testing or certification on our machines, which is what he's asking you to fund $700,000 for Henry Adkins to do, has to have a scope of accreditation for their certifications on what the parameters for which they're legally bound to test by. I would like that produced because I haven't seen it. In fact, it's nowhere listed on the NVLAP or anything. So I ask that you take that in consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
On the subject of election contract, Jen Olson.
Evening, council. So I wanted to come here to ask my councilman to vote to table this, but I can't do that because he's not here. So I'm asking the rest of you to vote to table the election authority request bill from Kurt. Kurt, what level of Candy Crush are we on tonight? We're gonna get a level count. My issue, along with many, I would be confident in saying the majority of voters in this county, is that we don't trust the government. As an elected official myself, I know that's kind of weird to say that, but the government has been increasingly abusive against the citizens. Things are getting hidden, just like Allie pointed out. These machines are not properly certified. We've been telling you this for 2 years now. 2 years, and nothing's been done about it. And then here we are. How long before we have to print the ballots for the municipal election? A couple weeks, maybe a month at max, and we're voting on this now. This could have been a month ago. Could have been 2 weeks ago. We're voting on it now when we have no time left. So the other question I have, all the things that this thing says in the bill pretty much sounds like Kurt's job. So what are we doing? Why do we have Kurt Barr if we're outsourcing the entire administration of our elections? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why are we paying for 3 years? If this is something that the citizens clearly for 2 years now have been pressing over and over and over again, every time this comes up on the agenda, we've been pressing that we want to get rid of the tabulators, not just the ADA machines I understand are federally mandated, but the tabulators are not. We can hand count our own ballots. The average turnout for voters since the early 1900s has been the same. So it's not like we have an influx of per capita people turning out to vote. How do you get people to count ballots? You grab people from the community. There's more of us. As the population goes up, there's more of us to count ballots. So it can be done. This is not rocket science. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already written into our state laws. So we can do it. Why are we paying for 3 years? That's what I want to know. It would cost us $200 and some thousand just to squeak by this year. We don't need to add the other 2 years into this contract. I would ask that somebody make an amendment to remove the other 2 years so that we as a community can figure out how we want to count our ballots going forward. Because we want to hand count. If you say that we can hand count, if you put that, I don't know if we have to vote on it or if this is something the election authority can do, but we'll show up, Kurt. We will show up. I know plenty of people who were not selected to be poll workers and they signed up. But Kurt is saying that we can't find anybody to work the polls. Yes, we can. Call us. Call us. We'll show up. Thanks.
All right, that concludes public comment. We move from there to the oral report from a county executive.
None this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. That brings us to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I would like to table the election authority purchase from Henry Atkins and Sons till we get further.
You want to remove it from the consent agenda?
Yes, I want to remove it, sorry.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay, so we have one item that has been removed and will be discussed later. Are there any other items?
Are we supposed to do all those in favor?
Yeah, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that item will be discussed. Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent agenda has been passed, and now we move back to the item that has been removed from the consent agenda. And Mr. Baker, would you like to begin?
I would just like it tabled so we could get, I know Councilman Brazel asked, and he'd like to look into this a little bit more, and out of respect for all the council members, I'd like to allow him that opportunity.
Okay, Mr. Swanson?
Actually, I would like, since we have everybody here, Kurt Barr, if you'd please come up and answer some questions before we table this. They showed up. I do believe they should have responses back.
It's fine.
So if you're okay with that?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
All right. So, Mr. Barr, were you taking any notes over there of the questions they were asking?
Yes.
Okay. I'll let you start, and then I'll follow up with any questions that I have after you have a chance to respond.
Great, thank you. So St. Charles County has had a contractual relationship with Henry Atkins and Sons since 1984. So for the last 40 years, this company out of Clinton, Missouri, has printed our ballots and programmed our elections. And so what I'm asking for the council is permission to continue that same relationship that we've had for the last 40 years. Now, there were a couple of other comments that were made. One, that I had not responded to Councilman Brazel's sunshine request. That is not true. I responded to his request in full, but I only sent it to the councilman, and I didn't make a public display about that, so it's possible they were unaware of that. Second, there was a comment that our election machines are not certified. That is also an untrue statement.
Please, folks.
On our website, we have the EAC certification of Unisyn's 2.2, the current version of Unison. And this is the federal government certification of that system. Also on our website is the Secretary of State's certification of the Unison voting system 2.2. They've been on our website for about a year now. I mean, Whenever there's a update, I now make sure that's just a publicly available document for anybody that goes to our website to be able to see. The federal government, EAC, Election Assistance Commission, has certified the unison voting system. The Secretary of State has certified the unison voting system. Our machines, our system are certified. There was some confusion, and there was a misunderstanding at one point in time that during a time period of 2017 to 2019, the Election Assistance Commission did not properly do their paperwork to certify the labs that do the testing. One of the ladies mentioned that Atkins isn't certified to do the testing. Well, that's true because they're not the testers. There's 2 labs certified by the Election Assistance Commission to test these systems. And for a span of time, the EAC wasn't testing the testers and doing the paperwork that they were supposed to do. So what they did is they actually wrote out a nice little letter and they made it public, basically saying, hey, we screwed up administratively. The labs are still certified. All the equipment is still certified. Nothing has been uncertified. It's our administrative error, and now we're back to certifying these labs. And I have a copy of that letter from the EAC explaining their administrative error. And I think that's where this confusion about whether or not our systems are certified came from. And so you have the Federal Election Assistance Commission, who has certified our system, and they have certified the companies, the labs that certify our systems. We have our Secretary of State, who has said, yes, this is a system that may be used in Missouri. And we have a contract with Unison and with Henry Atkins and Son, because the way Unison does business is they have franchise dealers. And so our machines are built in San Diego by Unison, and the software is programmed in San Diego from Unison. Henry Atkins and Son from Clinton, Missouri, does all of the programming of the election, what we call building the ballot, and they also do the printing of our ballots. And so what this contract that I'm asking for renewal does is it continues that relationship, one that I have the license to keep using the software that our machines use for the paper ballots that everybody votes on and has voted on since 2013 when this county purchased the Unison system, and that we can then continue our relationship for the last 40 years that we've had with Unison. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
What is the time frame for printing the ballots for the upcoming elections?
So absentee voting for the April election begins February 20th. And so I must have ballots on February 20th. We're in the process right now of creating those ballots.
So this contract wouldn't have anything to do with delaying that election?
The finance department will not cut a check to Henry Atkins and Sons until this is approved. The vendor, because we've had a 40-year relationship, is working for the county so that we can have our municipal election.
Okay. But this contract would include payment for printing the ballots for the April election?
This includes the work that they're doing right now, programming the election. Okay. There is a separate invoice for the actual printing that will come. Okay. But without the ability to program the election, then the printing is a separate thing.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah, it seems to me that this is a sole source provider.
Yes.
Have we looked at, I know we have an RFP process.
Yes.
Are any other firms bidding on it? It just seems like they can charge us pretty much what they want, and we're stuck with it.
So the election space, economically, is a very small field. There are, essence, 5 vendors who create electronic voting machines and the tabulators that tabulate the paper ballots. There's 5.
Did we reach out to any of those other 4?
So we could do that. However, that would require a minimum of a $1 million price tag to purchase new machines. So Unison is the vendor who has produced the machines we currently own. And Atkins and Sons is their sole vendor in the state of Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. There is no other vendor who can program machines and ballots for Unison in the state of Missouri. If we want to go with Dominion or another company, we can do that, but then we would have to buy all new machines and replace all the Unison machines. So if you want to go through that process and that RFP process, we can do that. But we're starting off at $1 million, and we're probably looking at least $1.5 million in order to get enough machines. And honestly, I haven't priced it out to know exactly what that would be, but it would be costly.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like we're stuck with this firm.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? And
Yes.
I mean, it's either them or nobody?
It's either them or no elections, yeah.
So, I mean, I think we've heard, I mean, I've been up here for over a year, and I think we keep hearing about a lot of concerns about our election and the integrity, and I just think it's something that we need to look at. And I'm not saying that you're doing anything wrong, I'm not sure there's anything nefarious going on, but, I mean, we hear from the people, there's some concerns, and I still go back to the days when we used to hand count, back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s, St. Charles County had 40,000 people.
Yeah,
We
you
now have
probably
over
didn't have as many
400,000.
election judges then, too. But, you know, you've got more election judges with a larger population that can help, and I think we've heard from residents that they're willing to help. I mean, if you have one Republican and one Democrat review all ballots, and then they agree on a total, there's your solution.
So we could go that route. However, it will cost the county more than double what we're already spending per election in order to pay for the manpower to do that.
But are we going to have to keep paying the $651,000 every 3 years?
Yes.
So is that really going to be more? That's cheaper than the alternative?
So the cost, the $651,000, that is a total cost. So we have our licensing agreement, which is roughly $40,000 a year, and then we have our the cost that we pay per election for the programming. And so the $650,000 for the next 3 years is the totality of how much the elections will cost that I will spend with Henry Atkins and Son and Unison for all of these elections. And these elections are costed out to the local governments, to the state government, and to the county government. It's not that this is just $650,000 so that we can have the software for these machines. It is the annual maintenance cost of the software. It's also the programming cost for each election. It's also a couple other costs that are all part of the contract. And the way that finance works for our county, as you well know, is when we do these bids, we give the council, here's the total price for the whole time span of how much we think it's actually going to be, as opposed to, for this year, I need to pay Atkins and Son $40,000 for this year's maintenance agreement.
Well, why couldn't we do that, though? Why couldn't we just go 1 year until we get a chance to figure out this is the route we want to go? Because we keep hearing from.
So our contracts are 1 year contracts. It's 1 year with the option of 2 more renewals.
So what's the price for just 1 year?
I honestly would have to look at the paperwork. It should show the 3 years on the paperwork.
So, Mr. Barr, you're saying that if we approve this tonight, $651,000 says for 3 years, but in reality, next year at this time, we would have an opportunity to look at this again, right? Because this is not.
No, next year I would have the opportunity to cancel the contract if they didn't meet their contractual obligations.
Okay.
What I'm asking for the council is permission to have a 1 year contract with 2 renewals. And so that in 3 years, like 3 years ago, I was here in front of the council asking for the same thing. And 3 years before that, my predecessor was here. And 3 years before that, he was here again. This is just the way that the St. Charles County does our larger contracts.
County Executive.
Yeah, may I inquire? I'm really confused now. You're telling me we can only get out a second year if there's somehow failure by the other side to perform?
As far as I understand our contract, but I could be wrong. We can ask council to look at that again, but I don't know if our contract.
Well, what you originally said sounded like the type of situation we often have, where you have a contract for 1 year, and we have the option to have the same contract for the next 2 years. Bob, do you know?
I think it's a renewal. It's an annual, I think it's an annual renewal.
It's an annual renewal. I mean, unless
Correct
it's
me if I'm
renewed
wrong,
next
Rory,
year.
I don't think that there has to be any bad
Okay.
faith or
Right.
inability to perform the contract.
Yeah.
If we
Right, so-
decide not to renew,
so-
we don't renew.
Renewal.
Okay.
renewed at
That's
our
what I
discretion.
assumed, and when you suggested otherwise, I needed to.
No, I appreciate that clarification. Yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
what the
I
chairman was
misunderstood.
asking too.
Yeah, no.
And anyway, 21 years ago, I was sitting in this seat, and the people up here and the people sitting here had a problem with the sole source with Atkins. I mean, we had a problem then. I think we've all had a problem every year since, but I don't know that there's any way out of it. I should say not any way. There isn't any cheap way out of it.
There is no, all the alternatives I know will actually cost more money. As far as cost, continuing with what we have is the cheapest way.
Mr. Swanson.
Now that we've gone through that, I want to get back to a couple other topics of certification.
Yes, sir.
Has anyone come out and physically certified the machines versus just saying, yes, they're certified because it's due year, et cetera? Have we had somebody through, the EAC or any other groups come out?
So the certification of the unison voting system is done by the EAC, and they do certify the machines and software that unison creates. They do not come to each election authority and certify each machine owned by the election authorities across the 114 jurisdictions of Missouri. So nobody has come to St. Charles County Election Authority and looked at each of our machines and says, this machine is certified. The system is certified, not each individual machine.
So when was the last time somebody who is certified checked the machines to make sure everything is valid and there's nothing nefarious on it?
I'm sorry, can you?
Yeah, just for clarification, we don't know if somebody has tampered with them or not. Has anybody who has a certification through EAC ever shown up and looked at our machines and made sure that everything is legit?
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So the answer is, yeah, earlier this year, we did a maintenance and calibration on all of the machines. So what we do there is we open up, we just make sure that the readings header is clean, and then we run a single ballot through the machine 40 times. And what we're looking for in this particular test is, does it count this ballot correctly all 40 times? Does it ever miscount, is it like doesn't count it, or does it ever count something other than what's counting? All right, so that's one element of looking at our machines to say, are they functional? Are they working? And then we do sometimes find that there is a problem with the machine, in which case then Henry Atkins and Son does the servicing to repair those election machines. The other thing that we do is before every test, we do the logic and accuracy of the machines. And we also do the public test, which all of you are always welcome to do. It's always the second Thursday before an election at my office at 10 o'clock. I made it consistent so that everybody can know when that will be. And what you do with that is you have what we call the test deck. And we know, okay, here's what the result should, the machine should have. And we run the large test deck through the machine, and we make sure that it counts every ballot, the correct way every time. We also, after the election, we hand count the different races from different precincts to do a spot audit to make sure that the machine count and the hand count match up. And we also will rerun entire precincts ballots through that same machine a second time to make sure that the machine itself does the count correctly the second time. And then we also will then do, what was that last test? I'm sorry, I just blanked on the last test. So there are multiple steps of what we do to make sure our machines are working and that they are functional. But each individual machine doesn't get the same certification that the system gets, that the Pro V&V lab in Huntsville, Alabama does for the system. And so anytime there is more than a de minimis change to either the software or the hardware of the system, then the Unison company or any of the other 4 large companies has to go to the EAC, go back to one of the 2 labs, and get their system rechecked and recertified. And so the last time that happened was in November of '21 for the system that we currently have.
Okay, so they brought up other different certification systems, NIST, NVLAP, A2, L2. I'm sure with the rest of the elected officials up here, we're not well versed in all of this with the different certifications. It is kind of concerning that the EAC is really just doing a spot check of checking the overall system and saying, yes, you're good to go, here's your certificate, versus physically coming in and checking machines to make sure nothing has been tampered with.
So the EAC does a full comprehensive test of the hardware and software of the entire system. I would not call that a spot check. Me and my staff make sure that each individual machine is properly working.
Okay. Now, you were talking about the self-audit. What percentage of the precincts do we self-audit?
It's a, there is, for the public test, it's a 5% audit of all the machines that we have to publicly test, which equates to 2 machines that are picked by any member of the public who chooses to show up. As far as the elections, it depends. The Secretary of State's office will, for the August, November elections, they determine which races are to be spot checked, and then we randomly pick the precincts that are in those races. For the April election, we will pick a mayor's race, a alderman race, a school board race. We'll pick the county bond issue, and we'll randomly pick one precinct for that to do the hand count for that election.
So, and I think Mr. Baker over there, you were talking about with hand counts and everything else. Is there a way that we can increase the number of self-audits within these from the 4 or 5% you're checking all the way up to maybe 20%, just to make sure that everything is valid? And then also I would ask, is there a way to live stream this where people can see what's going on and be able to vet it versus not?
So could I do more? Yes, I can do more. I mean, it's simply going to raise the costs to the election and increase the time for the auditing process. Going up to 20% will be costly and time consuming. I don't know what that increased cost will be. I don't know if it would be appropriate to put that on the school boards and municipalities when they're not used to that kind of an increase. The county will be picking up a much larger chunk in August, and so maybe that would be a better exercise when that happens. As far as live streaming, that's a whole nother issue. But there is I think we could think about that and discuss that.
And this is where I'm just throwing out options and trying to come up with some common ground, because I think what Mr. Baker was bringing up of going that route, if we can verify that the tabulators are doing what they're doing, there's validity in it, there's confidence in what's happening, that builds a lot of trust. And
So
I think
one would
across
think
the
so.
nation, I'm not accusing you of anything,
right.
but across the nation, I think a lot of people in here realize that there's a trust issue when it comes to elections.
Right.
Not saying St. Charles County is one of them, but to be on the forefront and do something different than other groups are doing, I think is very proactive.
So we, as you know, we're doing these spot audits. We've never had an issue, the 5 years that I've been director or the time before that I'm aware of, where our hand counts, as random as they are, has indicated a problem with any machine. And as you're well aware that, when you do a statistical random sample, and if you find no problems, you can be confident that there aren't problems. Now, if you want to, increase that sampling size, we'll see the same result. But I think that there is a group of people who, until the sample size is 100%, will not be satisfied.
When we do the hand counts, is that ever publicized, put on the page of the election authority? that this precinct was hand counted, here was the tabulator, here's where the hand count was?
It is kept with the election documents, but it's not publicized. The only thing that's publicized is the certification of the final election results.
Would there be anything saying we can't do that? Because I'm all about transparency. These people want to know that our elections are valid. If we can say we checked these precincts, here's our hand count versus tabulator, it once again builds that trust.
I do not know of any prohibition to that. I would actually have to simply double check.
Because if it's already happening, I think that would be an easy thing. You take a photograph, here's what our hand count was, here's what the tabulator said, here it is. People, if you want to see what's going on, this is what's happening. If we can't go to somewhere where we can see it live stream, it's just another option. And I'm, like I said, I'm throwing out ideas, don't know if it's all your department, if you're able to work it or not, but I think it gets us in the right step. And I think as Councilman Schneider was saying, you know, we need to be more transparent and see what's going on. And these are just ideas. People have sent emails. We've heard about it from multiple elections. Like I said, I'm not worried about anything that's happening in St. Charles County is wrong. But you know what? We also need to check. And we never know if something is happening. So I think I've talked enough, so I'll just stop with that.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Barr? Yes, yes.
It is one last thing. When this came across my desk so that I could put it on the consent agenda, I asked the staff, and I was told this is necessary to do now for the April election. Okay, that was confusing too. So it is necessary.
I cannot pay the vendor for.
Well, no.
Yeah, so yes, it's
You
necessary.
talked about paying him. Can we do the election or not?
We are currently doing the election.
You're saying the vendor's trusting us that we're going to pass this?
Yes,
So they've advanced on the work or they can't meet the deadline?
correct.
I'm sure there's.
That's
according to you,
surprising
there-
to me.
Well, I believe,
They
I
would-
believe this gets down to the
I'm
40
sorry.
years of doing business with them,
Yeah.
that they are looking at this as that they are going to, you know.
Maybe
are
we should
going-
have got it before now.
So you're saying we really should have done this earlier because they've already started doing things that are beyond the bill for this,
I suppose I could have tried to do this in December. I thought that doing it in the beginning of January was sufficient time.
we could pay for services already rendered.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we must take a look at the item that was removed, which was the,
Don't we need to vote on that?
yes, okay.
We're going to vote on it to table it?
The first, if you make a motion to table this, we would then vote on it.
I make a motion to table.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, seeing no second, okay, we will now vote on the actual item that has been removed from the agenda, okay? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, the item has passed. Okay. All right, moving on to resolutions. There is a resolution number 24-01.
Resolution number 24-01, sponsored by Terry Hollander. A resolution authorizing the offering for sale of special obligation bonds of St. Charles County, Missouri.
Okay, questions or comments on this particular bill? Mr. Snorr, would you like to explain this to us?
Yes,
Okay.
Council. Back in September, there was a preliminary resolution to go forward with a bond issue that you all passed unanimously. This resolution here tonight is to authorize the sale of our bonds publicly. The intended sale date is February 6th, where we will seek competitive bids in the marketplace for our bond issue, and we will take the highest and best offer that we get. And our credit rating is good, so we should see a good level of competition for those bonds. After that sale takes place, at your first meeting in February, which I believe is the 12th, we would come back to you. You have an ordinance on the agenda here a little bit later. This is the introductory ordinance that actually puts the final stamp of approval on the bond issue. We won't know the terms of that bond issue, so this is a preliminary bill that you're looking at tonight. Once the sale takes place and all the sale terms are known, you'll have a substitute bill on February 12th that would be the final version of the bill to pass. So this resolution is really just for the county to be able to go to market on February 6th.
Thank you.
What's these bonds going to be used for?
$32 million is the jail project and $3 million is the arena.
What's for the arena?
Huh?
What's the $3 million for the arena include?
Primarily going to cover the majority of the cost on the seat replacement. We need something, in the bond issue, since it's a 20-year bond, we need something long-term, and the seats are the designated source or use of those funds.
Okay, is there any questions on resolution number 24-01? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Resolution number 24-01, a resolution authorizing the offering for sale of special obligation bonds of St. Charles County, Missouri. Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel? Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 24-01 has passed. Next up is bills for final passage, beginning with bill number 5253.
Bill number 5253, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1E Single Family Residential District to R1A Single Family Residential District per application RZ 23-16.
Questions or comments on this particular bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5253, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1E Single Family Residential District to R1A Single Family Residential District per application RZ 23-16. Councilman Brazel? Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, bill number 5253 has passed. Next up is bill number 5254.
Bill number 5254, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of Tower Summit.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5254, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of Tower Summit. Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Bill number 5254 passes. Next up is bill number 5255.
Bill number 5255, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of the re-subdivision of Lot 2 of LMC subdivision.
Okay, Mr.
I'd
Swanson.
like to make a motion to table
Second.
5255.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to table this particular bill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this bill has been tabled, and give you folks another several weeks to get together with Ms. Brazel, get together with whoever, and see what we can come up with. Okay?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So before you leave, I know you guys want to talk about the gas station and the strip mall and all that stuff, and we understand where you're coming from, right? But please understand, that's not what's before us, okay? I get what you're talking about. I understand the C2 zoning. I understand what he's here to talk about, to where what they showed at planning and zoning. But I just want you guys to understand that's not what we're voting on. We're voting on either to split it or not to split it, right? So, what's that?
The variance.
And the variance, right. So that's what we're voting on. I get it. This isn't point counterpoint. I just wanted you to understand, because that's what everybody keeps talking about, and I appreciate why you're talking about it, and we understand. Trust me, we understand. But I just wanted you to make sure that you understand what's before us, because not everything is before us that you're upset about. So even if we vote no on this, it doesn't necessarily get you to where you want to go. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and you don't have one expectation of an outcome. So it sounds like you do, but I just...
No.
No.
Well, this,
So,
do you understand that, yeah, this did come before us in 2008. Okay, and that's what before all of us, with the exception of Councilman Brazel, I think were not on the council at the time.
but I think we're clear on where you are.
Yes, we certainly are.
We're all good.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Mr. Holberg, did you get an email from their subdivision today with information regarding their attorney and all? That had been from the Dove Meadows subdivision? Just want to verify you have.
I received an email from them saying to contact their attorney for any questions.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you
Yeah.
had that email. And it
Yep,
got to you.
yeah, we received it.
All right, perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right, since bill number 5255 has been tabled, we move on to bill number 5256.
Bill number 5256, an ordinance authorizing execution of the revised St. Charles County Regional SWAT Team Agreement with municipalities who are signatories thereto. Councilman,
Questions or comments on bill number 5256? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5256, an ordinance authorizing execution of the revised St. Charles County Regional SWAT Team Agreement with municipalities who are signatories thereto. Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel? Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 5256 is passed. Last bill for final consideration is bill number 5257.
Bill number 5257, an ordinance authorizing contracts for property and services necessary to the operation of the Family Arena and the National Equestrian Center.
Questions or comments on 5257? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5257, an ordinance authorizing contracts for property and services necessary to the operation of the Family Arena and the National Equestrian Center. Councilman Hammond, Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman Baker,
Yes.
Councilman Swanson,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel, Councilman Elam,
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes. Okay. All right, bill number 5257 is passed. We move on to bills for introduction, beginning with bill number 5258.
Bill number 5258, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the South Point Prairie Road project.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5259.
Bill number 5259, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Matt Swanson. An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation to fund the Josephville Road Phase 2 project.
Questions or comments on 5259? Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5260.
Bill number 5260, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Matt Swanson. An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute off-system bridge program agreement, federal project STBG-7302-706, with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds for replacement of Josephville Road Bridge over a tributary to the Quiver River.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5261.
Bill number 5261, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute off-system bridge program agreement, federal project BRO-R092001, with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds for replacement of Dietrich Road Bridge over a tributary to McCoy Creek.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5262.
Bill number 5262, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute off-system bridge program agreement, federal project BRO-R092002, with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds for replacement of Howell Road Bridge over a tributary to Femme Osage Creek.
Questions or comments? Okay, one thing I'd just like to, Mr. Greifsut, there's about 6 in a row here. Can you explain, why the abundance of these right now and what they are really calling for?
Yeah, there's, the abundance is because we're in that funding cycle. When you apply for funds, contracts come in at the end of the year, they come to council for approval at the beginning. I think if you look at all the items for our introduction, they all came from the highway department. So I like to acknowledge them. It takes a lot of work to apply and to secure these federal funds, which brings federal dollars back into the county. So I think the fact there's a bunch of them shows that our guys are really working hard to make sure that we get the best value for our road construction program.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we move on to bill number 5263.
Bill number 5263, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Tim Baker. An ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for financial assistance from the State American Rescue Plan Act Water Infrastructure Grant Program for the study, design, and construction of stormwater improvements within the Heritage Subdivision and fund CCTV inspection and condition rating of storm sewers in unincorporated St. Charles County.
Questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5264.
Bill number 5264, requested by John Lyons, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance granting an easement to Spire, Missouri Incorporated for the installation of a new gas main along Hopewell Road in the new Harvest subdivision.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, our last bill for introduction is bill number 5265.
Bill number 5265, requested by Robert Schnurr, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of special obligation bonds, Series 2024 of St. Charles County, Missouri, and approving certain documents and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith.
Questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, that concludes our bills for introduction. Are there any announcements to be made? Mr. Swanson.
Going back to the election authority, I'd actually make a motion to reconsider, since I was on the prevailing side, to switch it from a 3-year contract to a 1-year contract so we can learn a little bit more about what's going on. We also have council members, 2 of them who are gone. And a 1-year contract, I think, is fair and gives us ample time to really look into the issue. So I'm making a motion to reconsider the contract from a 3-year to a 1-year.
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to reconsider the decision that we made previous. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Wait.
Can we discuss that
Yes,
first?
you certainly can. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Okay.
So, Mr. Barr, I'm curious by our earlier discussion, is this going to put our contract in jeopardy of what we're currently working on right now? Because it sounds like we kind of have a gentleman's agreement, if you will, that we're moving forward with this contract.
The short answer is no, because this would, with the proposed amendment, would take care of the calendar year of 2024.
Okay, so we'll be good.
But what this would mean is, obviously, I'll be back in, November to ask for, another year or 3.
My guess is you'll be back before that, but I just want to make sure that we're good to move forward with this year's election if we do what Mr. Swanson's talking about.
Short answer is yes.
Cool, all right.
Can I ask Mrs. Lycum
You sure can.
if she has anything to add to that? I saw you discussing it.
No,
Do
ma'am,
you-
it was
do you
a whole
agree-
different question.
Pardon?
It was a whole different question.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
So we have a motion to amend this particular contract from a 3-year agreement to a 1-year
No,
agreement.
we have, I think,
Motion to reconsider.
I think we have a
We have motion
motion
to
for
reconsider.
reconsider. Yeah.
Okay.
And then once, if that motion passes, then you just
I
start
seconded
over
it.
and treat it like then you can table it, pass it, turn it down, whatever. But right now, the
Would we
motion,
need a substitute?
pardon me?
Right now, we're just voting on motion can reconsider,
No.
and then we can vote on what I have asked for.
Okay.
Okay, so we will go ahead and make a roll call vote on whether to reconsider.
Sure. Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel? Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
No.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Okay, all right. The motion passes to reconsider. Okay, now we will go ahead and make a motion to amend this
amend
particulars.
to a one-year contract versus a 3-year.
Second.
Well,
Yes, let's go ahead.
you need to amend section so-and-so, page 5, line 5, by striking or by adding or,
Okay, let's take a look at what the actual wording here is, Mr. Swanson.
This was a motion to reconsider the decision to table or not table.
no, they passed it.
Right.
Okay, election authority, right here.
Mr. Chair, can we
Yes.
have a moment?
Sure.
This is a consent agenda item. If you don't consent to a 1 year, they can't do it. Otherwise, all they is pass it in 1 year, which is the amount set out right here, $275,500.
The nature of a consent bill, a consent item, is that I've already signed it. I don't get to veto it if I change my mind.
Please, ma'am.
What is
Please.
going on
Thank
here?
you. Ma'am.
Pardon me?
Please. Please.
What did she say?
I don't know, I just,
Pardon me? Can she not hear?
She can hear.
go ahead.
She doesn't agree with what you're saying.
Well, I haven't even said anything yet.
Go ahead, Ms. Connie.
The nature of a consent agenda or consent calendar
Correct.
is that I put it on there, I sign it, and that means if you approve it, it's done. Normal procedure, of course, is to do an ordinance, which you all approve, and then I get to veto.
Correct.
All right? So you really can't amend something on the consent calendar, and that's why I sign it, because I know what it's going to be before I send it to you. So if you amend something on the consent calendar, well, you can't. And if you could, then I wouldn't sign it before I send it to you, because I wouldn't know what your amendments might be.
Mr. Chairman?
And I say
Yes.
me, I mean, this is every mayor, county executive, whatever, that does a consent calendar. The whole idea is to move these things quickly without amendments, and me basically saying ahead of time, hey, if you pass this, I'm good with it. You know,
I think the understanding here is that a consent agenda item is different than an ordinance that comes before us. Is that the point that's being made here? Okay, Mr. Elam.
Yeah, because I believe I understand the way the process works, and by amending a consent agenda item, you are, in effect, going around a veto process. And you're kind of not giving the county executive the opportunity to veto, which by charter, he would have the opportunity if it came as a bill and we got the opportunity to pass it
which
as
doesn't
an
mean
ordinance.
you can't, which doesn't mean in the end, you can do whatever you want.
But
It's
I
just you
believe-
can't do it on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
You can leave it there, and you can, somebody can put in a bill next meeting, or,
So if I would understand the process correctly, we would have had to vote this down and start over again in 2 weeks.
right.
So if, Mr.
You
Swanson.
you
I
can
would-
table a consent bill, and you can bring it off the table and either pass it or not pass it, but you can't
Correct, but
amend
we
it.
still cannot amend.
Right.
So,
All right, I understand. I'm
There you-
familiar with
Yeah.
more local municipal government where we have that ability. This is still my learning curve of going through it, so at this point, we have a motion to reconsider, but it's not valid.
So are you
No,
withdrawing
you can reconsider, but you just can't amend it.
You have to vote yes or no.
Yeah, the reconsideration would be whether we
So if you
should-
reconsider
Vote it up or
it,
down.
it's back before you, and you'll be able to vote again, but it'll be on the same thing. Unless, again, you want to put it in a regular bill and amend it, or, well, you want to ask Kurt to ask me to put in a different bill,
All right.
next.
So,
But
County Councilor, what's the easiest way to clean this up?
As far as these motions go,
Yeah, since
Okay,
really
well, it's-
what my motion I made really is not valid.
Your-
No,
your
and I
initial
know, I'm just using the
motion-
term, Steve.
fine.
It's fine, but it's
the motion to
what we can and
reconsider
cannot
is
do,
fine, and it's being voted on, and it's back up for consideration, and now the motion is either to approve or to not approve, or else to table.
Put it back, yeah.
Right.
so in effect, if I understand correctly, because of where we're sitting right now, procedurally, we would need to basically redo the vote.
Correct.
And a yes vote is approving the contract, no vote is not approving the contract.
Correct.
Okay. All right, we'll just tackle this one from a different issue later on. So, I'm fine.
We need to revote.
Okay, so we are now going to revote on the election services contract, Henry M. Adkinson and Son, $651,343. Is that what we are doing at this point?
Correct. It's still all those in favor.
A motion to approve that, okay?
Correct.
So I would again request a roll call vote, and we'll go from there.
Is there a motion to approve and second this consent agenda item?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion.
Yes.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve and a motion and a second
Yes.
for this
Rereading.
redo.
Councilman Swanson?
Yes.
Councilman Brazel? Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
No.
So, okay, we have revoted, and we have come to the same conclusion that we did originally, and the item has passed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
let me again, Bob, you think the way it's written, we don't have to do it next year?
It's been my understanding that these are one-year options
Yeah.
after the initial one-year term, but
It's not the way it's written.
that's what I was just going to say. I was just going to say
It's
that,
a three-year contract for 24, 25, and 26.
looking at the only thing that looks like there's a warranty, there's some warranty language further down in the bill that talks about an initial one-year term and two-year extensions.
Okay.
I have an announcement.
Okay,
If I
yes,
could.
Mr. Baker.
Yeah, so I feel like a broken record, but Chief, I just want to say I'm going to relay the gratitude that the Heritage Subdivision has for the increased patrols. And they specifically mentioned Officer Hunt, and that they are very appreciative of his efforts and his communication and everything. So I thank you. And I also want to mention that I know snow removal is a big thing, because I didn't get any calls that it wasn't going good. So I want to thank John and everybody with the Highway Department. I didn't go out, but I didn't get any calls or notices that it was not good. So I want to thank you. So.
All right. Any other announcements? Miscellaneous. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, folks.